This is my 10-gallon fry starter tank. As you can see, there is an inordinate amount of detritus on the floor of the tank. This is because all of the water that I removed from my 120-gallon tank yesterday, as I caught adult Colombian tetra to sell to my favorite pet store for store credit, I removed to this tank in hopes of catching some fry, and I do not remove the detritus at this time because fry do tend to dart into it to hide if I put anything into the tank like a turkey baster to remove the detritus. So although it is unsightly, I leave it in the tank for some time until I'm sure there are no fry able to escape my notice into this filth. Just a couple of decorations in there to sort of hide the heater and give them some cover. I used to put a sponge on the intake, but I have found that I don't tend to get any fry sucked up into the hang on the back filter. They seem to be able to escape it, unless of course they are deformed or otherwise very weak and probably wouldn't survive anyway. Here we have my 10-gallon female guppy tank. There are about 8 fancy female guppies in here at the moment. I've managed to get a total of 6 fry from them thus far. I put the common male guppy with them for a time, and I seriously doubt that he was able to inseminate any of them because he spent all of his time chasing the largest 2 females, which I believe had already been inseminated by fancy guppies, so probably didn't carry on his line. The idea there was to come up with guppies that are more resistant to disease than the fancy guppies. But if he was able to inseminate 1 or 2, that'll be fine. I'd like to see what comes of that. In the tank there are a couple of pieces of driftwood and just some plastic plants and some deep river gravel hang on the back filter. I do keep a glass jar in the corner for sinking pellets. They particularly like algae wafers, but guppies are omnivorous and will eat anything. But whatever I put in there, whether it's frozen foods or blackworms, tend to lose less of it in the substrate if they can feed out of the glass. Here is my 120-gallon tank, looking very sparsely populated, as I sold 35 Colombian tetra to my favorite pet store yesterday. I removed all but 2 fish from the tank, of course leaving behind Jimmy No Eyes, as he's found a home with me for the rest of his life. I wouldn't think anyone would want to purchase a fish with no eyes, and certainly wouldn't give him the care that I give him. But I did remove about 8 Colombian tetra from my 75-gallon tank to this tank, and the Ancestris never ceases to amaze me. I removed all the decorations from this tank and Jimmy No Eyes before I began catching Colombian tetra to sell, and the Ancestris was not in any of the plastic decorations where he usually hides. So I searched and searched for him and finally found him in a crevasse of one of the larger pieces of driftwood, which had been out of water for a few minutes and was in the sink at the time. Now he is too big to slip down the drain of the sink in just such an event, but thankfully he was fine, so I submerged him in a 5-gallon bucket of water until I finished catching fish, and then returned the driftwood with him still wedged into the crevasse to the tank, and shortly thereafter saw him swimming about in the tank uninjured. So I will give you a closer look at Jimmy No Eyes, who is doing fine. I thought that he was nearing end of life, as the scales tend to get a gray tinge, seemingly, when this species is older. But, well, he looks to be quite healthy. And then there are some of the younger Colombian tetra checking us out, expecting some food. So I have Malaysian driftwood, perhaps some other types as well. This piece here, haven't had to scrape a lot of rot off of it. It seems to be a pretty hard wood, and some fake plants and caves, etc. A vase to leave sinking algae wafers for the ancestress, and well, there's a bit of frozen adult brine shrimp in there at the moment. I have seen Jimmy No Eyes go into the vase, so that's nice for him as well. Some time ago I purchased a Plecostomus hide, which I currently have back there by the heater. And I have noticed my ancestress using it only one time. A few days ago, in fact. So it's good to see I'm getting my money's worth out of that wonderful little ornament. He generally prefers to hide in these, well, they're actually shaped like tree trunks, but they're hollow, so that one right there behind the plants is where I found him the last time I sold fish. Always attempting to hide intakes of hang on the back filters, but never completely successful in that endeavor. Really like these magnetic thermometers. I purchased, I believe, 8, and 2 turned out to be defective. I returned one to my favorite pet store yesterday for an exchange. Set that one aside for future use. So now we wait for these Colombian tetra to grow out and breed and provide me with more fish to take to my favorite pet store.